So you're on the Anthony Rogers show right now, and I just want to know, what's it like taking people's jobs? You feel good about yourself? Huh? You feel good? Oh, you're just gonna walk away? Oh, okay, bet, dude. Okay, bet. See ya. Oh, you wanna fight? Oh, okay. You wanna fucking go? You wanna fucking go, dude? Where is he going? Like, what is happening right now? Oh, now you wanna? Oh, okay, never mind.
How's it going? This is Sean from Smile Empty Soul, and you are watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
What's up, good people? This is Jesse Leach from Kill Switch Engage, and you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show. Let's get it. Nice.
Hey, this is Ebony Mystique, and you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show. Yeah.
What's up, y'all? It's Funny Man from Hollywood Undead, and we're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey everybody, my name's Art.
I'm Freddie.
I'm Wherever Claire, and we're watching the Anthony Rogers Show right now.
Hey everybody, I'm Jared from your favorite band, Bowling for Soup. You're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hi, my name is Emma Rose, and you're watching Anthony Rogers Show.
Hi, I'm Matt.
I'm Jake.
What's up? I'm JB. We're August Burns Red, and you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hi, I'm Addis Fichet, and you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Peter.
We're Candlebox, and you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hi, I'm Sheena Ryder, and you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
I'm Savannah Storm, and you are watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hi, it's Hot Wife Sadie Rose, and you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
You're watching The Anthony Rogers Show. You have to do that again. One more time. She's drugged.
Alright, go one more time.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. You're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Can you say it in a super deep voice too?
Oh, no. We could, but that's gonna be $500.
$500?
You're not gonna.
We don't want that to live
You're not gonna
online.
get that footage. That's gonna go viral.
That'll go viral.
That's gonna go viral.
Put that on my Instagram.
Hey everybody, I'm doing great so far. And the weather down Dallas is brought raining so much rain later on the week in Dallas, Texas. It brought severe thunderstorms in Rachel, Oklahoma, and Dallas, Texas back on Sunday night and Monday. Brought a lot of severe weather there. It's really hot in southwestern United States right now. Lots of thunderstorms and rain to forecast in eastern United States on Wednesday, June 11, 2025. It's going to bring a lot of rain all across the eastern United States of America. Then it got to comfortable air and dry air in on the Great Lakes region as well. It's really hot going all the way up to Alberta, causing a lot of fire, a lot of smoke coming from the wildfires in central Manitoba right now. In Australia, somewhere in New South Wales, Australia, had huge blizzard conditions in New South Wales, Australia. It was really bad there. And weather's getting colder in Mozambique, Madagascar, La Réunion, and Rentis Islands, Namibia, Angola, and Botswana, and parts of Zimbabwe. They're in the dry season right now. Because the dry season's there right now. And the weather all across Middle East is extremely hot right now. India is getting into the monsoon season the end of June and in the month of July. They'll be bringing so much rain in India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, all across Thailand, and there's currently heavy rain in Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, and Vietnam and Laos and all those countries. And the South Coast are trying to bring a lot of rain right now. Typhoon season is going to be really bad in Japan, Taiwan, East Coast of China, Hong Kong, Philippines, Vietnam, Laos, and all those countries. It's going to bring really bad in China. Typhoon season in China this year. Sandstorms are bringing really bad sand and dry dusty air come off of northwest coast of Africa, traveling all across the Atlantic Ocean, westward direction, all the way to Caribbean and Texas and Florida and Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cayman Islands, and Venezuela, and all those places, including Papua New Guinea and all those places. Lots of smoke in the Manitoba. Said Sahara dust come all the way from northwest coast of Africa, traveling westward across the Atlantic Ocean, heading towards southeastern United States of America. It was mighty bad there right now. It was so bad. Lots of the Antarctica's 24-hour darkness right down in Amos and Scott Post Station and McMurdo Station, Antarctica, is right now down the Antarctic research stations. And stay like 24 hours a day up at Klugatuk, Nunavut, where Olivier is. And northern tip of Nunavut's 24-hour daylight up in Alert Nunavut. And up around the North Pole's 24-hour daylight up in the North Pole right now. And up around the northern Alaska, it's 24-hour daylight in Barrow, Alaska. And up around the north coast of Alaska, it's 24-hour daylight right now. Longest day of the year in my area is June 20th. Shortest day of the year in New Zealand is June 20th. On the same day. Low pressure goes clockwise in New Zealand, and high pressure goes counterclockwise in New Zealand. And any others over in Japan, typhoon season, and it's going to be really bad in Japan right now. Typhoons will be kicking up in the high gear in the end of August of 2025 into September. It's going to bring one typhoon right after another in East Coast Asia, like Japan, Taiwan, East Coast of China, South Korea, North Korea, Vladivostok, and all those places. And typhoon might even reach Magadan in Russia. And Vietnam, Laos, and Philippines. It's going to bring a whole lot of typhoons this Western Pacific typhoon season. It's going to bring a lot of hurricanes to eastern United States of America and Gulf Coast and Texas and all those places. Be extra prepared. Don't let your guard down. Keep your guard up.
Bam, great call, Frank. That was a very detailed weather report. I appreciate that, brother.
Did you hear about this? Then they got the new Frank Del bobblehead wearing a t-shirt coming out in the summertime, according to Phil Scholar, National Bobblehead Hall of Fame CEO.
Top shelf, brother. That's top shelf, brother. Like they got merch and stuff. The weatherman's got merch, and I challenge you.
It'll bring you good luck. You got to rub the tummy or the head or whatever.
I challenge anybody to prove any of his weather reports wrong. I'm like, yeah, this guy is right for days, months, years. Like he's most. I've not found a flaw in your weather report yet, and like you've been doing this for about a year or two here, and you're a beast, brother. I appreciate that.
And things are going great so far. I'm showing Charles Street in Sydney.
Looking epic, man.
Nice.
I mean, this guy's like literally hasn't been wrong yet about the weather. It's like crazy to think about. Like, you know what I mean? How many like hacks there are out there that like just don't even know the weather, and like Frankie's just like spitting it out. And, like it's always like we'll post videos on the show social media, and they're always right. Like people from Australia and Texas and Oklahoma have been thinking Frankie lately. They've been around the world been thinking Frank for like the heads up on the weather and
Totally.
wherewithal of not stepping in those puddles that are way deeper than they seem in Australia. A lot of people were saying things on that too.
You know, speaking of weather or genetically modified weather, in LA today, there was this crazy fog that looked human generated that like swept over LA. I mean, I was up like because I was partying, so I was up at like 5 a.m. But like, so I was up at 5 a.m. and I was driving home, and it was like you couldn't see anything. And earlier that day it was clear and like maybe 90 degrees, and today it's like clear. But this morning it was so foggy you couldn't see anything. But it looked like a bunch of chemtrails. Like it looked like a chemtrail fog. Like it didn't even look like real fog. Like it was just so bizarre, and it smelled weird. It was very, especially after the riots happening. I thought that was quite odd.
That is crazy.
And did you hear about this? And last week, Perth, Australia had so much heavy rain, brought so much heavy rain in Perth, Western Australia, and people in Perth, Australia watched me on the internet.
That's awesome. We're going to cover the riots after this episode also, but on this episode we have some absolute experts like just their field. I think they are what is that? Way above me rank wise, like career wise, which is impressive. And I always learn a lot from people like this. Is Judge Dodell and Ken, who's a writer for Reagan and Nixon, which is crazy. You can get their books in the description before. But how you gentlemen doing?
Good. I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, you guys are absolute legends. I appreciate you guys going backwards in your career to be here.
Good.
Well, it's good to hear all those weather reports.
Oh, he's right too. He's right every time. It's crazy. I have no idea how.
Down in Dallas, Texas, they had Charade Show back on Sunday and a Monday. They had Charade Show with very strong winds damaging buildings in Dallas.
Good. Well, it was sunny here in San Juan Capistrano. Thank you, Frank.
Where are you out of, sir?
San Juan Capistrano.
Where's that at? I'm not even familiar with that at all.
That's where the Swallows return.
Is that Texas?
When the Swallows return to Capistrano, you heard the song?
Yeah, I know the song.
That's where they return to San Juan Capistrano. That's where I live.
What state is that? I'm like an idiot.
California. It's 60 miles south of Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's super south. That's interesting. I've never been there.
That's awesome.
Well, you were in the Wall Street Journal criticizing like that. You think that the whole Biden thing wasn't just him being dumb, or that he was basically a plant? You think, or I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm asking a question, more or less. What are your thoughts on that? That you think like the Biden thing was a plant?
Oh, my theory on that is that about 10, 12 people in the White House burglarized the Oval Office. It's basically the sort of twin case of Watergate. They eavesdropped and stole the Oval Office from Biden's brain. I mean, Biden was a bobblehead president. His mind was gone for the last maybe at least the last 2 years of his presidency, and maybe most of it. And there was a Politburo, including the First Lady, and this is all. I mean, I'm not making it up because it was now documented by Jake Tapper in his book, and by two other books, and now by his own press secretary, who we now concede has lied and cover up the president's inadequacies and brain deadness for the last 2 or 3 years, and lied about it. And I mean, it's a massive cover up. And nobody seems to be willing to report about it. The Washington Post and New York Times, who love to get Pulitzer Prizes, their editorial writers are like toothless paper tigers, won't write about this because they're just part of this old Eastern elite that takes care of its own. It's a buddy system, and these are all pals that eat and drink in the same location as in Washington, D.C., and they don't want to expose themselves. But this was a very dangerous cover-up because these 10, 12, 15 people had their hands on the levers of power and could make any decision they wanted, and basically from a brain-dead president who probably within the next couple of years is going to announce his dementia, and perhaps by the end of the Trump presidency is going to announce his Alzheimer's. So it's very serious because these people who are political operatives had the power within their hands to launch a nuclear attack, or involve themselves in the war in Ukraine, or make domestic policy, or maybe they're the ones involved that allowed 10 to 12 illegal immigrants into the country, or caused the inflation, that destructive inflation that we had over the years. And nobody seems to be willing to do anything about it. So I called for the equivalent of Senate Watergate hearings. So that was the essence of my op-ed in the Wall Street Journal.
It sounds a lot like undue influence, like when someone with a lot of money or power or whatever is like losing their mind and getting dementia. I mean, I've seen this in my own family where someone swoops in and kind of takes over and is like influencing that person, influencing the decisions, their opinions about other people, and kind of like taking advantage of the fact that they're struggling mentally and psychologically, memory wise, whatever. And I mean, that would be a perfect candidate to prey on, especially with that much power. So it makes sense what you're saying.
And power is a horrible. It's an aphrodisiac. I was in the White House both in the Nixon administration and I had a very senior position with President Reagan. I was in the Oval Office. I flew on Air Force One with him. I was at Camp David with him. I traveled with him. I had several meetings with him. I flew in Marine One helicopter with him. That sense of power, dining in the executive mess, they don't want to give that up. It's just an extraordinary power. You're on the A list. You can call up a military driver to take you to dinner in Washington. The most senior people in the White House have people to pick them up in the morning and take them home at night. And these people, and they admittedly said they didn't want to give this up. They were hoping to slip Biden under the, get him under the line and win the election again here in 2024 so they could keep that power. And especially in Joe Biden's case, she could keep her position as first lady. And you have to understand, they wake up in the morning, they have servants taking care of them. And they have access to Marine One. They have access to Air Force One. Biden flew back and forth from the White House to his Delaware beach house all the time. He could call up Marine One 50 yards from his office in the White House, get on Marine One, and 35 minutes meet in his Delaware beach house. That's an amazing aphrodisiac, this power.
Well, we look at the reality of it all. That's one thing. But you have to look at the legality as well. And that requires an analysis of the facts, not speculations or anything else. The analysis of the facts pretty much supports a theory that this was a political design. Number one, he got elected the first time because they needed somebody that would have a name recognition and that they could basically control. So really, it was a continuation of the Obama White House with a new body. And the fact is, they couldn't afford to disclose that he was going through these mental issues at the time, and they had no alternative. In fact, you have to ask yourself the question, why they pick Kamala Harris? There's a lot of real good reasons why they did it, and they did it without having a contribution from anybody else in the party. This is basically, it's a throwback to the old political system where the good old guys took care of everybody. And that's what they did with this one. And they were running him again because they figured they could get away with it. And I'm not a political person. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. But all you have to do is look at the facts. The guy was obvious to the people who were inside. They knew his condition. And they chose not to disclose it because they wanted to maintain control. The real people running the show at the time, in my opinion, was Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama. They basically controlled everything, even had a pen that kind of wrote itself. And the reality is, this is hiding it from the. And I think that it made a difference in the election to some degree. Some people did recognize it, especially after that debate. And some people did recognize it and said that they couldn't really do it. I think that's one of the reasons that Trump got elected. There were a number of factors, of course, but clearly Biden was incompetent.
Yeah.
Hey, Anthony, if you want to follow me on social media, my Reddit is Frankie McDonald 1984. My Reddit is Frankie McDonald 1984. My Facebook is Frankie McDonald. My formerly Twitter is at Frankie McD. My Those guys at Frankie McD, and my link tree is Frankie McDonald. My threads is at Frankie McD 94. My TikTok is Frankie 94. My Instagram is Frankie McD 94. My Clapper is Frankie 94. My Twitch is Frankie 94. My Snapchat is Frankie MCD1. My YouTube channel is Dogs Wolves, and my LinkedIn is Frankie McDonald. Best luck, yeah. I'm Frankie McDonald. You're listening to Anthony Rogers Show every Tuesday nights at 10 and 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central, 10:40 p.m. Atlantic.
Bye, Frankie.
Hey, Frank. No, great point, guys. I think that was super on point. I think, I mean, it definitely seemed malicious. Definitely seemed like a continuation of the Obama administration. You guys are super on point. I definitely think that's. And do you think anything will come out of this? Like the with, like you think anything will come out of this, or we're just gonna like kind of just all Uh,
I don't know. I'm concerned. Even today, the Wall Street Journal editorial is saying that they don't want to follow up on it. They think there's, more serious things like in the bill that's going through Congress now about the budget and taxes and whatnot. But Congress can multitask, and I wrote about this in my book, Behind Closed Doors in the Room with Reagan and Nixon, and I devote a whole chapter 16 about the abuse of power in the Reagan administration by people in his White House. And people don't know about that in Reagan's own White House, there was an abuse of power by 4 or 5 people who tried to manipulate Reagan, and they succeeded to some extent by getting him to raise taxes against his own will. And that chapter 16 goes into great detail about that. And that can be done by people who are willing to take power into their own hands. So it's very dangerous. And so I'm hoping something will be done about it. I'm going to be promoting it on X or Twitter, whatever. Yeah, I guess it's X, and writing more about it. But they're trying to sweep. They're really trying to, Anthony. They're trying to sweep it under the rug, and Reagan called it the Washington buddy system, where they take care of their own. And Judge is right about this, and he's looking at it like the judicial system would look at it, that there's a legal way to see this, that the fundamental sense of democracy we had was undermined by these people in the White House.
Look, there's an interesting sideline to this as well, because the issuance of pardons and things of that nature require intent. And the intent, if it doesn't exist, may, and I use the word may, result in some of those things that were done being set aside. And so you have to take a look at that as well. Nobody's ever raised that issue, as far as I know, in any real judicial decisions. But I think logically, if you need consent, an informed consent to do something, and it doesn't exist, it makes the action void, or at least voidable. And so that's something that will be determined by the Trump administration. And keep in mind, they're no different, and they're no better or no worse. This is This is politics. It doesn't matter who's wearing the hat. This is pure politics.
Judge, do you think there are grounds for the U.S. attorney to impanel a grand jury to investigate whether fraud was committed within this administration?
Well, reality is that the AG's office can pretty much do whatever they want to do, whether it would pass muster if it was challenged in an appellate court remains to be seen. But I think they certainly could, and I'm a former prosecutor, so I can tell you what can happen. They conduct an investigation. If they believe, and keep in mind it's a one-sided, basically grand jury is one-sided, and if they believe criminal conduct took place, they can certainly issue an indictment. And we'll see whether or not the political overtone here is going to make any difference. I don't think they really want to raise it, because if they raise it, the other side's going to raise it, and they're not exactly pure and white as the driven snow either.
I think Biden's the fall guy too. I think like they put all these crimes on one guy who's aging and about to fall off. Where he didn't even know where to walk or anything like that. He was almost captured. He was like a captured man. Yeah. And like I think he's the fall guy. And I think you nailed one of you. I think Judge nailed it earlier. Was saying it was the continuation of the Obama administration. And I think Ken, you had so much like detail on this where like it was perfect articulation. And I think that's exactly what's happening. I think that you guys are nailing it. You guys are super on point with this. Like is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Anthony, Biden's not the issue anymore. He's gone. He's not a statesman. He has no political influence. He won't be traveling the world as a statesman. He's history. It's those people he left behind that should be questioned. They're the ones who took away the power of the presidency.
Ask yourself this question: how did Nancy?
Biden.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but go ahead.
Go
What I was
ahead.
about to say is the Speaker of the House gets a salary of $223,000 a year. How did Nancy Pelosi get to have a net value of $130 million? How did that happen? That was no accident, you know.
Insider trading.
But you think anybody's going to go after it? No, because
the entire American population. That's a great point. I'm sorry, I got hyped up, but that's a great point. Because like the entire population knows that, but no one's accountable for that. Like we all know these guys are cheating and stealing and putting us billions of dollars in debt while they're on yachts.
I mean, all the money that was donated to help the homeless. I mean, nothing's been done. I go to Skid Row and donate food and water and clothing all the time, and there has been nothing that's been done, and there was millions of dollars that were donated that are just. And the Black Lives Matter is another perfect example of just like it's like a psyop that's created to get people all riled up to donate money to a cause that's just total bullshit, and then some white guy ends up stealing it anyways. Like it was for the Black community. It was supposed to be to go back into the Black community, which it wasn't at all. It was basically put towards a house. The guy who was running it who's a white guy.
Look, there's also a very strong possibility. Again, I don't deal in conspiracy theories, but there's a certain possibility that that's what caused the rift between President Trump and Elon Musk. And there's a protection issue as to who's going to get what from whether you call it the big beautiful bill or anything. You can call it whatever you want, but the reality is everybody's taken care of. If you look at the political appointees, all administrations, by the way, political appointments are exactly that. The guys that gave the money, the girls that gave the money, they get the jobs. That's exactly who's in power. You did something for me, I'm going to take care of you. You didn't do something for me and you were my enemy, I'll take care of you too.
That's tribalism for sure.
Well, especially with this president, because he's a very revenge-oriented guy. And he takes it all very personally because his narcissistic elements are driving him there. You piss him off, he fires you. And that's just the way it works. And so people want to protect their jobs, they're going to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, I'm friends with a lot of Trump's friends, like Roger Stone. I think you guys both know him and stuff. He's a good guy. And so you got a lot of good guys around him and stuff. But I totally agree with the temperament. It's like a teenage temperament, which I don't like. That destroys, it divides the country, which I don't like. To be like honestly, and I think he's hilarious. I think he's got good policy most of the time, but I still think better than Harris, obviously, from my perspective. But it was a wildly off-topic question, Ken. What was it like riding in Air Force One with Reagan? Just I had those cliff note of what you said earlier.
Yeah,
what was that like, you boss? Like,
well, that's the best. I have to tell you. I flew in the 1980 campaign. Of course, that was a 727 and that was rough duty, but early wake up calls and cold coffee and stale donuts, and then 84 he was the incumbent, so we were flying around in Air Force One and of course you have Air Force stewards and it's the ultimate comfort. You have plush seats and everything else, but you have all the comforts of communications, and you can get on the phone and dial anywhere in the world. But the beauty of Air Force One during the 84 campaign is that we left in the morning and then we got to sleep in our own beds at night, and we flew out to a campaign and then came back, and so that was the nice thing about it, and it was. And of course, working with the president in his own cabin there, it's he's such a gentleman, and it was just you ought to go to the Air Force One exhibit in Simi Valley, and my typewriter's on there that I wrote many of his speeches. I donated my typewriter, so now it's sitting on the Air Force One exhibit at the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley.
So what's it like we're in a excuse me, sir. Sorry, but I get hyped up. But what is it like writing a script for the president? Like that is the most power on earth, especially during that time. America was like top shelf there in that time. Like what was that like? Like, did you feel like the power go through your fingers to that time?
Well, I'll tell you. First of all, I viewed myself as a collaborator, that the worst thing a speechwriter can do is try to make policy and try to take over the president's mind, and that's a big mistake. I tried to be a collaborator with them, and he was used to having script writers from Hollywood, and what he said was in Hollywood he was not known as a good script writer, but a good script doctor, and so we collaborated with each other. I would provide him language and he would edit it heavily. He was a great speechwriter because he was on the General Electric circuit for years and years, where he wrote all his own speeches by himself. So actually, he resented me half the time. But we had a real bond together, mainly because I paid attention to him. I didn't try to put words in his mouth that he didn't want. I didn't try to direct policy. I didn't try to be something he wasn't. I tried to match him. I tried to listen to him all the time, and so he was a pleasure to work with. I paid attention to him, and of course he had that most wonderful voice in the world, and that great smile, and great stage presence. So you couldn't beat that.
Yeah, he's probably one of my favorite presidents. Nixon and Reagan are both great presidents for different reasons, but that's Reagan. I mean, he ran the '80s. I mean, basically, he was America was like a powerhouse during that time, I think, and I think we can come back to that, but I think we've outsourced everything, so I have no idea how we're even a country still. Well, it's like it's the comparison's crazy.
If I could pitch my book again, I discuss in great detail how I worked with him on speeches, and it's a book that guides young speechwriters on how to do speechwriting communications, and not just with Nixon was a great communicator as well. Nixon, I say that I got my PhD at the College of Ronald Reagan, but I got my BA and Master's at the University of Richard Nixon. I mean, he taught me so much about communication and messaging that I transferred to Reagan, because Nixon became a great liaison with Reagan during the 80 and 84 campaigns, and I was his communicator, and that's one of the secrets that I divulge in the book, is how no one knew that Nixon was communicating with Reagan in 80 and 84 in those campaigns.
Yeah, Roger Stone got me into Nixon. Like I fell for the propaganda until I quizzed Roger Stone on why he loved Nixon so much, because he has Nixon like tattooed on his back. Yeah. So I asked him about that, and the more I got into it, I'm like, wow, like Nixon did a lot of stuff, and the media kind of played him like a fool. Like really, I like he was one of the greater presidents, I'd argue.
Yeah, well, Roger's an old friend of mine. I knew him when he was at Twerp in the 1972. And next time you have Roger on, you talk to him about what he learned back in the days when he was I was one of his mentors. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, Roger's been on about 12 times now. He's endorsed me for Congress like when no one else would. I was a scary guy running for Congress, but he endorsed me. I like Stone a lot. Yeah, he taught me a lot. Like you guys are both legends too. I mean, so it's like. I like in this field, like it's like it's America, you know. It's like it's just like we can do whatever we want here. Why are we wasting our time, you know? it's like such a weird, it's such a weird case. Like I love this country, and I feel like I feel like people my age and younger don't even understand it at all. They don't understand like how rare it is to have freedom in the entire timeline of the universe. Like I mean, like how crazy it is to have this one time in history where you could like the janitor has no more value than the CEO, you know, in opinion with the internet at least. You know, I mean, you may be able to vote with money more, and other people might. There's ways you to be ahead, I guess. I'm saying like it's an even playing field though. If you're a dreamer with an iPhone, you're out there on that street like begging for money. You have an iPhone out there, and I'm in downtown St. Louis, a lot of people there. That guy has a chance to be a millionaire if he just focuses, you know, like everyone else. Like there's no difference in anybody. I mean, there's advantage in upbringing, there's advantage in certain things, but like it's still an even playing field to like this is the only time it ever happened.
Access to the internet, you know, you can go to a public library and get any information you want and learn anything off of YouTube. You don't even have to go to college anymore to like become successful and like make a lot.
Well, the judge knows this better than anyone. Everyone has equal rights when they come before the judge. Equal rights before the law. That's America.
That's an illusion. If you want to know that, the reality, I can speak for my colleagues some of them are not exactly treating people equally at all.
Mm.
There's political influence. There's the desire to get appointed to a higher position. There's favors that get done to the people who were there before them. Sometimes for re-election, you have to raise money for a campaign. And a good friend of mine, as a matter of fact, spent $50,000 getting re-elected after being on the bench for more than 20 years. He spent 50 grand. And where does the money come from? He didn't have a whole lot of money. And so there are donors, and donors expect to get something in return. And don't you think it happens? That's reality. That's total reality.
No, I agree. It's panhandling. It's disgusting. I hate it. I agree. Bernie Sanders, he runs for president every couple of years, and he just takes the money and runs. I hate it. And I think it's complete panhandling. I ran for Congress. I spent $28. I mean, I came in. I had the Republican nominee, but I lost in the major election with $28. You know, and like I think that's the key. Is like I mean, politicians are spokesmen for the people. They're not like in power. You know, they're not like the leaders, man. We don't have any leaders here in America. You know, that's the great thing about it. Is we're leaderless. You know, it's like we have representatives. You know, it's like even like I don't know. And I love it. I think we all love this country the same, and I think it's rare to have that many minds on something these days, and it's sad. Like a lot of people like these kids, they're like I really hate Christian nationalists. I'm like, you hate a guy that loves God and his country? I'm just like, what? It was like I was talking to a 20-year-old. I'm like, it was the weirdest conversation. Or 21-year-old was a bar, but it was the weirdest conversation I ever had, and I can only imagine like seeing it longer. Like I'm like almost 40, and I'm just like, man, these kids would be the first in the gulags when the Chinese take over. Oh my God, they have no skills. If you can't make it in America, you can't make it anywhere. Like you got no chance. You know, it's crazy. It's handed to us, man, and these people just don't do anything. They just watch cat videos all day. You know, it's like
watch cat videos all day.
They have unlimited information. That's all they do. They watch this 3-second videos all day. It's like, is this the dumbest generation you gentlemen have seen? Like ever? Like.
Well, Judge, you are right about one thing, because we've subsequently found out one of my colleagues, Jeff Shepard, has done some exceptional research, and we found out how corrupt Judge Sirica was during the Watergate trials, and includes his prosecutors. So we've discovered that he had, you know what ex parte meetings are. That's where judges meet without the defendant's lawyers present, and Judge Sirica had a minimum of a half dozen meetings with prosecutors without defendants' lawyers in the meetings, and he also stacked the appeals courts so that appeals that went from defendants' cases up to the to the D.C. circuits went to 5 appellate court judges that he had stacked in advance. So there was a lot of very indecent behavior taking place in Sirica's courtroom, and between Jaworski and Sirica, there was a lot of corrupt behavior that my colleague Jeff Shepard has uncovered over meticulous research over the last 15 years that is being exposed in his book called The Nixon Conspiracy. And I'm glad he's been doing it. And over a period now, in our lifetimes, maybe not in my lifetime, but we're going to find out how corrupt that whole Watergate trial was.
Well, look, if you're looking for perfection in the legal system, it doesn't exist. Just keep that in mind. I know, because I was sitting behind those doors talking to people all the time, and you see things that they're getting done, and you know viscerally that it's not the way it should be. That's why I wrote my book, which is called From the Trench to the Bench. It's coming out in audio next week, as a matter of fact, that the reality is the public has no clue, really, the general public has no clue as to what really goes on in the system. And I discuss it in terms of here's how it really works. And so the reality is there's no perfection for sure. And the reality is you're stuck with what you got. And a lot of times it's not an appealable right. Forget about all criminal cases. We'll talk about the civil cases too. You think that the right guys win all the time? They don't.
Yeah.
Big guys usually beat the little guys. Although I must say, I sued insurance companies for a living before I went on the bench. And when I got on the bench, I said to myself, I can't let that in any way interfere with my job. And so a lot of times I ruled in favor of insurance companies, even though I had made a living suing them. So the reality here is, it's like that movie where the box of chocolates, you get what you don't know what you're going to get. You really don't. And it's called forum shopping. That's the title. You look for the right judge at the right time, under the right circumstances, and that's what goes on. The big guys know how to do it. The little guys are struggling to get by.
You look for the peanut clusters.
Right.
Well, whatever it is a crapshoot. Yeah. And if you're holding those dice in your hands, that's why I always tell people, I was doing a lot of settlement negotiations before. I tell no case is perfect, and everything has risk. And the way to avoid the risk and get certainty is settle. That's why I took a course at Pepperdine on mediation and arbitration. And that's the first thing you tell people. You want to take a shot? Who's your judge going to be? And you don't know in advance because you didn't file your complaint yet. And you have no idea who you're going to get and who's going to come out of that barrel. And sometimes it ain't so terrific.
That's a shame, because then it's just people that have less means to get by end up getting screwed over and over again. And they keep going through the system again and again. They keep getting convicted. They keep not being able to get a job. They keep having to go back to breaking the law to get by. And it's just kind of like a cycle and a system that is kind of like a prison in itself, because, you're just kind of stuck in that lifestyle because there's no way out of it,
But the bottom line is, as a judge, it's not our job to create situations in society that you would like to see. When you take that job, you follow the law, whether you like it or you don't like it. In terms of sentencing, if you're talking in criminal cases, there are guidelines for that. It says you get 2, 4, or 6, depending on whether it's mitigated or exaggerated or whatever it is. It's the rule. And they just changed it actually in the federal system. It used to be that the judges had to follow the rules directly. Now they don't. There's some degree of discretion that didn't exist before, which exists now. And we are seeing it somehow in the civil system as well. We are evolving. The law is evolving. Just like you're talking, Anthony, some of the things that are coming up right now, whether they're executive orders or whatever, this Supreme Court is going to decide where we're going. The real question is the administration going to follow the rules? That's still up in the air too. Some people think that they're better than others, and they're not going to have to follow what a court says. We'll see whether the contempt is ever brought or otherwise, but it'll be an interesting time.
I mean, is there a higher court that holds like political figures accountable for their actions? Like, are there like secret courtrooms where it's like just for political parties? Like,
every case has its own what they call standing. It has to be a reason why you're in that court. Criminal cases have to be in certain courts. Civil cases over a certain dollar amount have to be in certain courts. But generally, there's an appellate system. I think you know that, Ken, from your life. You start out in the trial court, which is in California called the Superior Court. Then you have an intermediary court in many states. And here in California, we have the Court of Appeals. Yeah. And that's generally 3 judges who get promoted, by the way. And you get promoted because you know somebody. Oh, generally. I don't mean to be too cynical about it, but it's true. And then ultimately you get Supreme Court in California is 7 justices. And it's the same political thing, isn't it, Ken? I
have to tell you, I helped like Governor Deukmejian, governor of California. He had a very, very rigorous standards for his courtships, and he vetted them very carefully, and it was not just pure patronage. There's a lot of patronage in courts, in judgeships. There's no question about that. But not any average schmuck could get appointed to the courts. And
I wouldn't say that. I absolutely wouldn't say that, because I had some colleagues that I've seen their work.
Well, I
Some
think
of
it's
them are not necessarily competent. Truly not necessarily competent. They're there because they got elected or they got appointed, and they
Just
do
because
what
of who
they
they
do,
know.
and they have total control over things subject to appeals. And a lot of times, I think about 20% of the appeals are successful, meaning generally there's a rubber stamp. Not to demean it, but the reality is a lot of times there's an assumption the trial judge was right, and that's how you start an appeal. And I'm absolutely telling you 100%. I've seen judges who are not so smart, shouldn't be there to begin with.
That's
true.
I believe you.
Well, that happens everywhere. That happens in business. It happens in Congress. And it certainly happens in the media.
Yeah.
Oh, of course it is. It's been, you get, in fact, on my show, I have a podcast also. What happens is you see all the differences. Whether you're watching CNN, you see it from the left, or you watch Newsmax, you see it from the right. It's the same facts, but the spin is, and that's why I have a distrust. I guess I'm overly cynical. I have a distrust.
No, I mean, the news is all propaganda at this point. I don't trust anything I see on the news anymore.
Same, and like cynic is born out of a good guy seeing people not follow the rules. Is how I vibe you. You seem like you're a good dude, and you're disgusted by the corruption you've seen, and I think that's what doesn't necessarily make you cynical. It just means I've seen this, and other people have seen other. I mean, like you're
more realistic than cynical.
Experience, yeah, it's just your experience, and I think like
sometimes
good men exist also. And I think I believe in, as a man of God, I believe in good men also. But I also think there's as much evil as there is good, and that's the terrible balance of this planet. Until we go to the next.
That's the duality.
But I can also tell you, in this case, I decided he was a very famous celebrity basketball player. He didn't have a lawyer.
Will Chamberlain?
I can't tell. I can't mention it. I can, but I don't want to embarrass him.
Will Chamberlain?
The reality was when I was in chambers, the bailiff came in and says, "You know who we got on the calendar?" I looked at the calendar. I wasn't really sure. It was this person. And when I got into the actual courtroom, I said to him, "Do you have a lawyer?" They were foreclosing on a $7 million house, by the way. And he said he didn't have a lawyer. Now, I looked at the papers. He had a defense. He really had a defense, a potential defense. But he didn't have a lawyer and he didn't raise it. And I couldn't give him advice for sure. And I couldn't decide it based on what I believed personally. It has to be based on the evidence. And he didn't have any. So I gave him 2 weeks. I said, go get yourself a lawyer. Come back in 2 weeks. I'll stay execution of the judgment. And he came back in 2 weeks. Still no lawyer. And basically I signed a writ of possession and out he went.
Wow.
So those things really... That's one of the problems is that people are underrepresented. They're not represented all the time with the most competent lawyers because the most competent lawyers cost more than the incompetent lawyers.
Oh, yeah. Lawyers are so expensive. I've dealt with lawyers and it's like you can't even get a hold of them to get a fucking answer for anything. And they charge you $800 just to send like 2 emails. It's like, it's total insanity.
No comment.
I think you just
what is this?
Judge Sobel's rates.
This is real life.
Well, I can also tell you that one of the things that's very difficult is to set aside your emotions. I have had ruled in favor of people that I really didn't like, but they were right. Some lady charged the bench. My bailiff had to grab her. And the reality was she was right and she won. I mean, I had to separate the facts and the law from what I personally thought. And that's what judges are supposed to do. But it doesn't always happen that way. Yeah. Some people just decide they like somebody, they don't like somebody. It's like a jury. That's why gambling under the jury is that you don't know who those people are and you don't know what they think. People always ask me, what's going to happen with P. Diddy? People always ask me that question. I have no clue. You could weigh the statistics and you could look at the elements, but remember, criminal cases, you need all 12. And some of those people might be big fans and not willing to convict them. You have no matter what the evidence looks like. It's called jury nullification, right, Ken?
Right.
jury nullification. They ignore the rules. We read them instructions that they don't follow, and the result is whatever the result is. And sometimes it's not fair, but that's what it is. That's the system, and we're not going to change that. By the way, it's too embedded. It's too embedded. Well, you know, Ken, talking to the political people, they don't want change. They like what they're doing. Why do people keep getting elected to Congress over and over again? It's the best job they could ever get. The first thing a person thinks about when they get elected is how do they get reelected. Right? That's what the whole thing is about. And we need to look at internally if we want to make any changes, because I personally don't think it's going to happen because of the history and politics in general.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, you realize that somebody like Gavin Newsom hasn't driven his own car since he left the office of mayor 20 years ago. I mean, he's had car and driver and protective guards since he was mayor of San Francisco. Maybe since he was in city council. That goes back 20 years. He probably
it's not him only. It's not him and only. You look around the political world, you see that all the time.
He's the example that jumps out. If they've been in the Senate for 20, 30 years, they don't know how to take care of themselves. They have staffs that take care of them. City council, LA city councilman makes over $200,000 a year, and they have access to city cars and drivers. It's just, it's a comfort level that they get used to doing. And then by the end of 30, 35 years, they got a pension and pension out. So that's why they keep running year after year after year. And that's why term limits is a good thing, but
not necessarily.
I really do believe.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. When you talk about term limits, you're limiting the amount of experience that somebody has. You can't constantly replacing them with people who don't know how the system works, and it gets more bogged down.
I believe in comfort limits. I think this business of coddling.
I agree. I think term limits make sense because it somehow minimizes the influence of the people because they're not coming back. It's different when they know they're going to get another 2-year term for Congress. And I have a fraternity brother who was a United States Senator for 16 years, just retired last year. A terrific human being, great person as a human, great person. He did it because he believed in it. And he was one of the few that I have seen that really was legitimately involved in politics because he was doing the right thing. You see that every now and again. If you look at the Senate, you're going to find half a dozen, maybe more, that are better than others. And then you look at Bernie Sanders, who shouldn't be elected dog catcher, in my opinion. But that's what it is.
He's never had a real job.
Well, I say I'm not political, but that's a guy that I think is a joke.
Well, he's never lived in the real world. I mean, he's always, he has no touch with reality. He's been
no, he has his touch with his own reality. To him, it's his own reality. As far as he's concerned, he's right, and everybody else is wrong, and that's the way it's going to be. And it's that way with politicians, even the ones you used to represent or be involved with. You think they didn't have big egos too? Of course they did. Well, ego goes along with the person.
You have to have an ego strong egos make for a strong leadership.
That's true too. Depending on who.
There's a level of delusional,
well,
delusion that kind of goes hand in hand with it.
There's
How
also
delusional are they?
Well, people think they're more important than they really are.
I think with
egotistically, they think that they have more power or influence than they really do. Because I can tell you, I was head of business affairs for Warner Brothers many years ago. And the day when I was running the studio, really, everybody used to stop by. I had 1 million friends. In fact, the head of the studio used to say he inherited 500 intimate friends when he took the job. And the reality is when I left and retired, went into private practice, all those phone calls stopped People who would walk on the street, they'd walk on the other side, didn't have to stop and talk to you. So it's where you are makes all the difference in the world. So it's not only politics, it's real life.
Yeah.
I think with term limits, it's a very good thing to keep like a Nancy Pelosi out of office or something. But it's bad because like the power goes from, in my perspective, the power goes from the person to the lobbyist, because like they're just eating up a new guy every 4 years now. Yeah, so I think that adds, it makes so it's like I see the pros and cons. I don't know the answer. I mean, I think Washington stepped back and like made it president only 2 terms. I respect that, and I mean, there's tradition and stuff which is important. But it's like, I mean, lobbyists are going to try and take advantage of that no matter what. It's my only concern about the term limits, to be honest. Like, it's my only concern. You know,
well, the Constitution provides for limits already on some things.
For most jobs, for most jobs, correct? Yeah, for most jobs, yes, but or not most, but like the really high up ones, like typically
the presidency for sure after Franklin Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot Roosevelt had 4 terms, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That was crazy. That's never happened. Yeah, Washington did too. I respect that. I respect a guy like Washington who had everything. Like he could have been king, and he's like, no. I respect that. I respect that. That's America. You know, like when you actually care about everybody else, use your strength and your power and your general might to take care of the people, and that's what's important.
Right.
That's what I love about America. I love that. Like we're like, you know, the big guy's no different than the small guys. The big guy will back the small guy. And that's what I love about America.
There's still a chance for you to be elected to the Congress, Anthony. Give it another shot.
I'm going to have to talk to you about some speeches after this. Like, see if I can get it together. You know,
it's not clear you can speak for yourself.
Well, yeah, I'd love to be governor and mayor at the same time. There's a guy who owns this building I'm in right now, the Mississippi Valley Trust Company, formerly now it's office space. But he was governor of Missouri and mayor of Missouri at the same time. And ever since I saw that as a challenge. I'm like, man, I should get that going, because I could definitely help Missouri in that regard, you know, and like I said, act as a servant, not as a dictator, you know.
Yeah.
I love that. I love politics. It's just like, it's so crazy. I only got into this 2020 was nuts. They try to like ban everything, so I wanted that law pen. You know, I mean, I was just like normally I just sell T-shirts and drink a bunch. You know, that's all my life's really easy. You know. But I saw it in 2020. I saw that. I'm like, oh, wait a second. You're trying to close all independent business and use the excess funds to buy rocket fuel. I'm like, no thanks, Jeff Bezos. You know, like I was just like, I don't know. I didn't like where the world was going, so I tried to do something, but I lost. You know, I lost in the general election.
Well, at least you tried. You made an effort to change the world. So that says something good about you.
Well, I appreciate that. And even not taking money set a precedent. I think it made I called everybody else a panhandler. I'm like, if you take money from the people or from private enterprises, you're a panhandler, and that should be illegal. We're representatives. We're normal people that are supposed to represent the people. You're not supposed to be nothing wrong with lawyers, but every politician shouldn't be a lawyer, you know. It should be like common men also. You should mix it up. I mean, and no disrespect to law. A lot of my friends are lawyers. I'm just saying, like, it should be different. I got a lot of farmer friends. I got a lot of comedian friends. I got a lot of other friends. You know, it's like America needs proper representation. It hasn't had that in forever. It's a bunch of guys with slick back hair trying to take your money. And they're trillions of dollars in debt, and it's boring. It's like you need my tax dollars and you're trillions of dollars in debt. You are unqualified to handle my tax dollars. I'd like a refund for 30 years because this is completely unqualified to handle my money. And then the people that want like to be granted by healthcare, they're like, yeah, the government's run healthcare. I'm like, oh man, have you seen them run anything? Have you seen them run? You know, the post office even sucks. You know, the DMV sucks. On the lowest level of government, they're incompetent. Like a Chick-fil-A is ran better than our government right now, and that's embarrassing. And it's like, you know, what I mean, or an In-N-Out Burger on your guys' coast. Like it's embarrassing that In-N-Out Burger is more effective than our government is.
There's no question. Well, Richard Nixon used to say the most worst politics is at the lowest form of government, and I think he was always right.
Oh, it's so bad. I had to go get a car title, put my name, and I'm like waiting here forever. I'm like, this could just be an app.
Planning commission, city councils. That's the meanest, lowest form of. They're the meanest, toughest, sometimes the most corrupt forms of government in our country.
Wow.
Yes, it's crazy. And like the system, everyone's like complaining about the system. I don't think the system's the problem. I think it's people exploiting the system. I think the system put in place is very powerful and very amazing. It's changed the entire world and made the modern world beautiful and amazing. But everybody wants another yacht, or they want Congress, for example. Like, I mean, this is lower ranked than Nixon, but like Congress, for example, So you win, right? Okay. And then January, you better have the most fundraising, or you're not in all the cool clubs. You got to pay 20 grand to be in this club and 40K to be in this club. And if you're not independently wealthy, like you're basically just borrowing money from like some guy, some demon who wants you to, who wants something from you. You're probably your soul. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you got to play the game. If I'd have won, I'd play the game. I would have raised no funds, made fun of everybody that did. You know what I mean? And you got to stand strong. Like you're panhandling, I'm doing my job. There's a difference. And I think that's huge. And I think that they should ban that across the board. You know what I mean? You should not have no lobbyists. That's the problem too. You ban lobbying, right? Then they're going to pay your son or your nephew or your grandkid or your wife, or like they're going to pay other people. There's like when you make a rule, you just make a criminal smarter. That's pretty much what happens. And then it's kind of annoying. You just got to solve the value system and make people have values again is most more important than laws, because like they're always like, man, take away the guns or shootings. Like murder is already illegal. Like these guys don't care about laws or crime or God's law or anything. You know what I mean? There's just certain people are just evil and they're disgusting to me, and we get rid of them when we go to heaven. We get rid of these parasites. But it's just like I don't know. Right now we got to play with them and mold them, and like they're all in pain. We got to fix it. We got to fix the problem. Everybody's just in pain. Everybody mad's in pain. You got to be like, when someone yells at you, you got to be like, okay, you're in pain. You're not mad at me. You're just in pain. Somebody, we got to figure.
You hate yourself. You hate your mom, your dad. It's always it's one of the few options.
It's like people in your guys' generation took acid to get crazy. Now we're like, okay, can we get normal again? It's just like, can we go back to reality and just like save this planet and like whatever else? It's like, and I don't know. It's just like I don't know. It's a crazy time, and I wish people cared, and weren't so easily tricked by propaganda.
This time is no more crazy than it's been for hundreds of years.
We
put different labels on it. Idealism is wonderful in the abstract, but put people in the position where it's me or thee. Most of the time, it's going to be me.
That's sad, right?
Yes, it is sad, because there's a spiritual element that goes along with all of this that people are ignoring. And I personally, I have a spiritual bent to myself. Everything's based on cause and effect. If you were to create the cause, the effect is going to be predictable. And so you do good things for people, good things happen to you. Not an accident. Do bad things, it's a mirror, comes back at you. You do really bad things, it becomes worse at the end of the day. So if I had to give anybody a lesson, it's do the right thing. And that's what'll change the world, maybe.
I think you're right. No, it comes down to the individual, and it's we the people. It's not Donald Trump. It's not Vance. It's not Harris. It's like we the people. You know what I mean? And that's why I was trying to tell this Tennessee crowd. I go, hey, we should stop paying taxes because it's unaccountable. They're like, we're going to arrest us. I'm like, who's going to arrest you if you stop paying taxes? Like, that's what funds the people that arrest you. I mean, it's just like you change so much just by being.
An illusion. It's an illusion of control. They want us. It's like they're gaslighting us into thinking that like they have all this power over us when we could all just. It's like 1% is pretending to be in control of all like the 99%, but we could all just be like, actually, we're not going to do this, and we could like totally change the whole trajectory. But we're so brainwashed into thinking we have no power or sovereignty ourselves, and we're so used to giving our power away to these fictional narratives that are creating chaos, these psyops, these distractions, this spiritual warfare that's going on, that's distracting us, that's making us fight each other and fight ourselves, question our own, whatever it is, question our intuition, question our gender, question our fucking whatever the hell it is. It's like, it's almost like a mental manipulation and mental warfare that I think is personally being put out through frequency technologies and the fucking, the airplanes with the shit in the sky. I forgot what that's called. The fucking chemtrails and shit. I mean, I feel like we're being attacked on a regular basis. Things that are actually affecting us in subtle ways that we don't even really recognize. And it's creating chaos and it's creating conflict and like all these different fake wars. I mean, like you said, there's no Republicans or Democrats. It's all one party. They're all hanging out at the same place. They're all working together to manipulate us and to make us work for them Like the Rockefellers built our educational system to basically make a bunch of worker bees. They didn't want people who actually ran their own businesses and like did their own thing. They wanted us to just kind of follow suit and do whatever the fuck they told us and work minimum wage, overwork ourselves, barely make enough money to get by and see our kids and have any sort of like functional family household. And be like, you know, serving this 1% that's like living off of like the majority of like all of their tax money, wherever the fuck that's going. And it's just, as soon as we realize that like we're the ones creating this reality and like these invisible like chains aren't actually real, like then we'll finally be able to step into our own sovereignty and like create our own reality and be like, let's just create our own government, or let's just, I mean, and I don't know if that will ever happen. But I think people are starting to awaken to the fact that, like, you know, they're starting to see through the curtain, through the veil, that like this is all being set up, all of this shit, even the riots. It's like people, there's ads on Craigslist, there's people being paid by feds to start these riots, to do crazy shit. Like there were ads on Craigslist for people to basically like destroy shit and make certain parties look bad and create chaos. And it's like, I think people are starting to see that, and it's becoming more and more apparent, you know.
Well, it can't be all bad. It allows Anthony to have the best show in the universe, right?
This is true. This is true.
That's a great point. And I think America is the best system that ever existed, but I think we have high criticism, we have high standards.
And until the judge's book comes out, it allows me to have the best book ever to come out.
That's a great lead-in, Ken. That's a real good job.
Books in the description too.
We're here pandering for our books, you know. And,
no, I don't want.
I'm getting paid by the hour, so I might as well have you buy my book.
But I love my book.
Definitely buy their books. These guys are geniuses and legends
on
they know what they're
Amazon.
Talking about and.
Well,
yeah,
look,
insiders.
Links in the description too. If you're listening to this,
it's not always about the money, really. It's about the ego. The ego is not the best friend. People do things for power. They do things for control. They do things for revenge. It doesn't necessarily always revolve around the money. Of course, it's a major contributor for sure. But the reality is we are who we are. We want to make a change in the world. We got to change.
Yes, sir.
That's how it's going to change.
Yes,
it's
sir.
what we do to make it happen, not what some third party out there might do for their own motivations.
Right.
I think a lot of you guys are blackmailed too. You got cameras, you got a GPS system, you got a microphone. So basically, most people. I mean, there's 5 different industries like listening in your pocket at all times. You know, you got the CCP, you got the CIA, you got, I mean, whatever companies. Like you have anybody that has access to that Trojan horse basically in your pocket. So a lot of great men are blackmailed also, but like you have to live righteously also. You can't do anything that you don't want people knowing because everybody's going to know everything. You've typed your entire life into this. There's people watching that. They're watching us talk about this right now. There's some guy in Asia right now sitting here like, just watching me talk on my phone, you know. I'm just saying, it's just like literally like we're so monitored, and we pay for it for some reason on a monthly basis, and it's like we're the most monitored generation that's ever existed. So I mean, if I was China, I'd be watching everything everybody does here and just blackmailing them. I'm like, oh, did you do that? Oh yeah, I watched you do that on Thursday. Here's what you're gonna do now for the CCP because I got this. And if you can't get those guys, they print money. The CCP will print money in their own country, take it over here, transfer it into wealth, and censor the entire internet. That's what they do with Reddit and Facebook and Instagram. You got federal agencies of multiple countries fighting for power and suppressing speech, and that's why it seems so weird. And the people will always win. Good always wins. Evil's just like this exhausting thing, you know. Imagine being evil, you know. It's just exhausting. I'm exhausted thinking about how much they have to do when good just exists and wins. It radiates, man. Light radiates, you know. That's what Christ is, you know, to me.
Well, the reality is that the right to privacy is long gone.
Yes, sir. People fight for privacy more than fame in the future, I imagine.
Well, the justification is no different than it's been for a long time. We got to catch the bad guys. So it's okay to trample on everybody else's rights. And you're absolutely right, Anthony. Yeah, carrying it around in your pocket. The cameras were everywhere. And then the argument is we wouldn't have caught this criminal if we didn't have a camera on the corner of X and Y.
You're right.
That's how they justify it. And that's been going on forever. You read some of the books that were written 100, 200 years ago. It's the same thing. except we become much more computerized. It makes it much more obvious. But the reality is you have no rights of privacy.
Right.
And anymore.
Yeah, they're all violating the Fourth Amendment. Actually, you could probably go after these people for some good money at the Fourth Amendment. You know, it's being completely violated. Right to seizure, and I think they're surveilling us, and I think that's a Fourth Amendment violation. Personally,
you don't see too much of Fourth Amendment issues. Basically, Mapp versus Ohio was the original case that dealt with illegal search and seizures, and that's how a lot of criminal cases are won by the defense. They raised the argument that the evidence should be suppressed because it was illegally obtained as a result of what they call it the fruit of the poisonous tree. And that's what a lot of people on the defense side, and I did defense for criminal defense after I got out of the DA's office. And the reality is that you look to get whatever you can get. And a lot of times evidence gets suppressed and the public never knows.
That's crazy, man.
Well, it is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
If you think you're going to solve the world's problems, you are the world's problem.
Well, it's been great.
That's good. It's pretty good.
Great fun, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you for coming on here, man. We'll wrap up. You guys want to promote your books before we get out of here? We'll get out of here, and we got to. Also, if you're watching at home, we're gonna cover the riot protest here after this. But thank you guys for coming on. You guys are absolute legends, and it is going. I appreciate you guys having Mercy on the Funny podcast and jumping on here with us. And feel free to promote your books before we get out of here.
We're legends in our own mind, you know. That's
people can go to my website, www.reaganandnixon.com, reaganandnixon.com. That's the best way to get it. And I'll put it up one more time. Behind Closed Doors with Reagan and Nixon.
If I had known you were going to be that good, Ken, I would have brought my book and stuck it on the screen too. My book is just called From the Trench to the Bench. It's how the legal system really works. Available on Amazon in book form, soon to be in audio. End of the story.
Nice. That's awesome.
Thank you, gentlemen, for sure. Like, pleasure having you guys on. And if you guys have cool other subjects in the future, I'm open to that. And you guys are both great guests, and I appreciate you. And everybody watching at home, thank you very much for watching. And Nikki, do you have anything to throw out before we get on to the protest stuff we're doing?
No, just follow these guys' social media. Be a good person. Be the change you want to see in the world, and stop being a sheep and fucking following some dictator or some dipshit that doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Yes, man. Yes,
All
man.
right.
You guys are absolute legends. Appreciate you guys. And we're going to have a different link here in a second. So if you're watching on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, whatever, we're going to cover the protests that are happening nationwide or worldwide. Also, we're going to cover a couple of those. And Nikki will be on until she has a better sentence to get out of it. And then Frankie will join us as well. We're going to cover these things. So thank you very much. Link in the description to Ken and the judges' books and then their social media, stuff like that, too. Follow them on everything. I am Anthony Rogers. May all your dreams happen. And God bless you. I'm out here.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
How's it going? This is Sean from Smile Empty Soul, and you are watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going.
You're here on The Anthony Rogers Show? Hey, we're here with Fox from Dexter and the Moon Rocks at Rockville in Daytona.
What's up, y'all? It's Funny Man from Hollywood Undead, and we're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey, everybody, I'm Jeff from your favorite band, Falling for Soup. You're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm Jake. What's up? I'm JB. We're August Burns Red, and you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey everybody, my name's Art. I'm Freddie. I'm wherever clear. And you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show right now.
What's up, good people? This is Jesse Beach from Kill Switch Engage, and you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey, I'm Ricky. Play guitar in Dead Heat.
What's up? I'm Chris. I sing in Dead Heat. Drum, Yogi, Dead Heat. What's up? I'm Josh. I play bass in Dead Heat. And you're watching The Anthony Rogers Show.